joining us now is Scott Taylor. Scott Taylor, former congressman from the 2nd District, running again to defeat Elaine Luria, who beat him in the Blue Wave in 2018. And Scott Taylor just fresh off a debate. The Virginia Star covered it, had good coverage on that. Scott Taylor with us now. Scott, great to have you with us, man.
John, good morning. Good to be with you.
All right, couple things right off the bat. You know, the decision that our show makes for our election night coverage is always pretty big. We've been doing this for a long time. We have a national following for our election night radio and Facebook show. And we only go where we think the winners are, because you don't want to go to a campaign, lose, and everybody's depressed. So we chose your headquarters. We're going to be there live on November 3rd, starting at 6 p.m., 6 to midnight, or however long it takes. I got Scott. I got a great panel. I got myself, Michael Watson, Chris Saxman, Brian Kerwin, Pete Snyder is going to be in our panel. And we're going to the Westin at Town Center. Everybody's invited there, because we really think you're going to win this race. Tell me about the debate last night and how you think that went.
Yeah, sure, John. Like I said, great to be with you. I thought it was fantastic. I wish the debate was, over a month ago. Of course, Elaine Luria was hiding from us, and we had to get tremendous pressure, community pressure on her to actually take a debate. And then she pushed it towards the end because they're relying on their people voting early, of course. But I think it really exposed her. She faked herself into a moderate 2 years ago, of course, and now you can see that she's nothing but a liberal. Like 90% with Pelosi. She was talking about guns yesterday, talking about banning assault rifles and stuff like that. And in this district, where thousands of people are gun owners, it really exposed her as a true liberal and not a moderate.
How did you feel about it? Because I watched the debate. Was it me, or did she not answer a single question in a legitimate fashion?
I don't think so. I don't think she did at all. I mean, she was evading it, and the moderator wasn't really holding her to the same standard. But that's okay. That's kind of expected, Mm-hmm. She didn't want to answer it because she doesn't want to talk about her actual record, her actual votes. She wants to just paint a picture that she's just moderate and bipartisan on veterans and military issues. And here's the reality. Yeah, we both support veterans and military issues. That's easy. That's the easy stuff. It doesn't have to be bipartisan. But the reality is, on everything else, she's been nothing but a partisan. The president won this district by 4 points, and the reality is the majority of the people in this district don't support Nancy Pelosi 90% of the time, which is what she does. And she just didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want to talk. She wanted to brush over on the police thing. She wanted to talk about. She actually said I'm a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment, which is insane.
Right.
With what she wants to do with taking away our constitutional rights.
Right.
And the same thing with the police.
Right.
She's talking about I'm a supporter of the police. Every sheriff, the Fraternal Order of Police, the Police Benevolent Association have all endorsed my campaign because they understand that we're the best for safety in our communities.
I blasted this earlier. I've been going through these fake Christopher Newport University polls now for a 7-year period. They get every race wrong. It's all skewed. They got a poll out today, says that Luria's up by 7. That's 50%. There's no way she's got 50%. I mean, Trump is going to win that district by 5 or 6. What?
She hasn't been close to 50%. Our polling has been consistent. She's been in the 30s. And here's the reality. I just posted this with CNU's poll. I got feedback on this poll a couple of weeks ago because they've been doing it, I guess, since August or October 8th. And I heard that it was very unfavorable questions to me, which doesn't surprise me. But then I also posted their poll from 2 years ago, at the same time, which had me up by 7 points, and I lost by 2, right? So
right.
They haven't been accurate at all. They're wrong by 9 points there. And I think that you mentioned this in the beginning of your segment. This race, it is close. I do think it's close. We had a poll that had us up 8. I don't think we're up 8. I think it's very close.
I don't think you're up 8. I think we're up half that. But look, Trump is going to win the district.
It's going to come down to turnout, though. Like you said, it's going to come down to turnout, and our people are fired up, and they're coming. They even had on their polls, I think it's like 70% of people who had early voted were Democrats. That's simply not true. We've done modeling too, and I'm at the polls every day, and I talk to people, and it's not 70% Democrat. There are tons of Republicans who are going in person early to vote.
Well, and the thing is, when we look at Virginia as a whole, and I haven't focused Scott Taylor on the 2nd District, but when we look at the campaign of Virginia as a whole, and we look at the early voting numbers and the mail-in numbers, okay, based on our model that all the surveys say that 60% of Democrats are going to vote early, either vote early or absentee ballot. If you look at the numbers and you lay 60% over that, they're underperforming everywhere, including Fairfax. They're underperforming. So you can't look at the raw number, because if you look at the raw number, it gives a false picture. You can say, oh my God, all these early ballots are up in Democratic areas. But they're going to get annihilated on game day, right? And as early voting goes forward. So if they're not getting over 60% on early voting, they're actually underperforming in these areas. And I think that's also what's happening in the 2nd District.
Yeah, in the poll they say 70%. That's not even close to being there. We're seeing us. They're up by slightly. I think it was like 9% or something, and that's it. And we're steadily gaining in this early voting. So I think their poll, of course, is wrong. As we talked about, I think the race is a close race, and I think it's going to come down to turnout and who can muster their forces, marshal their forces, and get them out to the polls. And I think that the president's going to win this district. I think there are going to be more Biden-Taylor voters than Trump-Luria voters, for sure. So, I mean, I think we're in a strong position, and we're going to keep fighting to the end.
Tell us about your campaign on the ground, because I think it comes down to, look, this election, Scott, is not about persuasion. I mean, it's not about persuasion. It's about mobilization. Tell me about the Scott Taylor campaign on the ground.
It's night and day towards Luria. I mean, we're knocking thousands of doors a week. We're on the phones, of course. We're calling tens of thousands of people a week. We're using text messages just like the Democrats are doing, of course. But me personally, I've been door knocking for over 2 months. We're out there. We're hitting the doors. They're nowhere to be found on the doors. I'm at the early voting lines every day that I can. I've talking to thousands of early voters already, and I can tell you right now that, yeah, there is a smaller swath of undecided this election this go around, but I've turned people right at the polls. And I'm hearing a lot of support when I'm there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we're running, you know me, John, you know how hard I work, and no one outworks us. Mm-hmm. I've seen Elaine Luria now 3 times during this whole campaign, and that's been in the last week. 3 times, the whole campaign in the last week. And
what is she doing? What is she doing?
She hasn't done anything. She sets up these, like, for example, she went to this PPE company. She called them for a photo op. Right. And, of course, she was nowhere to be found when we needed PPE. But so she sets up these canned photo ops, basically. Mm-hmm. She doesn't go anywhere else by herself. She's not at the polls. She's not. I mean, like I said, 3 times I've seen her this whole campaign, and it was in the last week.
Wow. So you're out on the ground.
It's like the Joe Biden thing. They're just relying on a massive air war and a smear campaign.
Well, let's talk about the smear campaign. Okay, first of all, they keep talking about the voter incident that you had in 2018. Yet you've been exonerated by the special counsel they have, right? They've come out and said you are not a target of their investigation. You're not being asked any
100%.
questions. Didn't they say
target,
that?
No evidence of any wrongdoing,
right.
Nothing. But
and they said you're not a target.
That's right.
Right.
100%.
So you've been exonerated, and yet they're still running ads like you had something to do with it. That's number one. Number two, I really think these ads are backfiring. One ad they've got on, and I tell you, my wife, who's a very good gauge of this, Scott, you know their four line well. There's an ad they're running about COVID-19 with somebody saying he got sick and then showing you at an event without masks. You know, she said to me, if I was not going to vote for Scott Taylor, that ad would make me vote for him because it's a ridiculous ad. It's like, okay, I got sick, I'm better, and he's at an event and somebody's having a good time. It's like these people just want to stoke fear. I think these ads are over the top, and I think they're backfiring and actually hurting her.
I do too. I mean, that ad specifically. Look, everybody in that room was adhering to whatever the governor's executive order was at the time in June, and it's just like a whiny ad. Not to mention the fact that I'm instrumental in supplying all of our hospital systems with PPE when they couldn't get it, when the governor's office couldn't get it, when VCU couldn't get it, when no one could get it in Virginia. We helped bring it in here, 200 tons of PPE. So I mean, it's amazing some of the ads that they've been putting out there. And I agree with you. I think that people are like, okay, this is enough.
Right?
She's terrible. She's not been here for 2 years, and now all she's doing is smearing the hell out of Scott.
Yeah, got it. John Fredericks Radio Network, Scott Taylor. Scott, in the debate last night, what did you think your biggest issues were in contrast to Elaine Luria? Your biggest policy differences?
Public safety, demonstrable difference in public safety, demonstrable difference in voting business-wise, pro-business. Definitely a huge difference. Like I said, 90% with Nancy Pelosi is where she votes. Here's the other thing. Talking about American manufacturing, getting jobs back here, getting critical medical supplies and pharmaceuticals manufactured in America. Elaine Luria has over $500,000 invested in a company that benefits from Chinese manufacturing, which is insane. How can a U.S. congressperson, be invested in Chinese manufacturing? It's crazy to me. So I think those things were very, very different. I think tone was different. I got text messages from females, and they were like, people don't like mean females like that. Like she was arrogant, and I just think that there was a big difference in tone, a big difference in policies, and which is good because the voters see a clear contrast. Because 2 years ago, as you know, she was trying not to have a contrast. She was trying to present herself as being very moderate.
Scott Taylor Light. She ran last time as Scott Taylor Light, no voting incident, vote blue wave. She was going to work with the president. She was a veteran. She was a commander. That's what she ran on last time. Now she's got a record. She can't run on that. Here's the thing. Trump is going to win the district by 4, 5, or 6, right? I think 5.5 or 6. Trump's going to win the district. Why would you vote for Trump and then turn around and vote for the person that voted to impeach Trump? Like, why would you do that? How's that make sense?
That's another demonstrable difference between us, right? She disgracefully used her military uniform to impeach the president without knowing any information whatsoever, wasted taxpayer dollars and time on that right during the beginning of the pandemic. And so, I agree. Like, I think there's going to be crossover with some Biden-Taylor voters. I don't think there are going to be many, if at all, Luria Trump voters.
Well, I don't either. Scott Taylor, I just don't see the campaign. She's not on the ground. She's not engaging voters. Her negatives are high. She's got the worst constituent service in the United States. Nobody even heard of her. I went to one town hall from her. She had one town hall. It was somewhere in Virginia Beach. They threw me out. I mean, I went in and I registered. I went in. I went to the men's room, right? I went out to go to the bathroom, and they wouldn't let me back in. And I'm like, I'm just sitting there taking notes in order to talk about it tomorrow. And they wouldn't let me back in because they said, well, you're Trump's chairman in Virginia. What's that got to do with it? I'm a constituent.
Yeah, so what?
What has that got to do with it? So they actually tagged me and wouldn't let me back in. I mean, this is the kind of campaign they run. Basically, they want to appeal just to their base, and I don't think in the 2nd district they're going to be successful. Okay, let's get to one big issue here, COVID funding, the PPP, Pelosi and Mnuchin still talking. If you were in Congress now, what would be your position on further funding for PPP and extension of the CARES Act? What would your position be now?
Well, the CARES Act right now, there is money that has been appropriated but not allocated. Right? There's still billions of dollars that have been appropriated but not allocated. I think it's important. I think the president's on board here, where you say, okay, let's cut out any kind of ideological policy stuff. Let's get aid directly to industries that have been harmed by this pandemic. A lot of them, of course, have been harmed by political decisions by politicians who didn't have to worry about their own paycheck being cut, but they basically, called folks that their livelihoods, their life's work, their workers' work, non-essential, which is insane to me. And no one was fighting for these businesses. So I think if I was there, I would be fighting on behalf of the businesses that harmed the most in our area. Of course, specifically, that's restaurants and tourism and service businesses like that. And you have to create flexibility in the PPP that actually adjusts and is good for them. Because several months ago, the PPP, while it was okay, there was really no economic benefit for them because you were paying your workers, but there was no demand because, the governor was shutting you down. So it didn't really help you at all. And meanwhile, your bills are due. And I've talked to many business owners who are very concerned, who are stressed out, who are broke in some respects. So that's what should happen. Anything should be looking at the CARES Act, the money that's already appropriated, making it flexible, getting it straight to the people who need it, who have been harmed a lot by political decisions by Democrats.
Scott Taylor, tell us about the last 13 days of your campaign. I know that Ann and I are going to be at your chamber debate with Elaine Luria on Thursday, I believe, at noon. Is that correct? At the Town Center, West End?
Yes, sir.
We're going to be there.
It's at the Marriott in the oceanfront.
Oh, it's at the Marriott. I'm sorry. What did I say? Oh, that's because I'm doing my other event at the Westin. It's at the Marriott Oceanfront. If you want to go to the debate, you got to go through the Hampton Roads Chamber. Just Google them and find out if there's still tickets available. And so I'm going to be at that debate. But tell me about the last 13 days of the Scott Taylor for Congress campaign.
So we're just hustling. Today I'm making, I don't know, probably 10 stops on the Eastern Shore. I'm actually in the tunnel right now. On my way up there. We're going to be just talking to people like crazy, pushing them out, getting them out to vote, and doing our GOTV turnout mechanism early as well as on election day. We're just going to be hustling like we always do, John. Ready to go, getting people out to vote. I'll tell you what, we did Don Jr. in the for lunch in Virginia Beach yesterday. In less than 1 week, the White House called us and they said, "Can you help us? We've got to raise money." And our team raised over $400,000 for the Trump campaign. I think that Trump's going to do well. Like I said, over $400,000 in Virginia Beach in less than a week. Our team put that together. So there's a lot of excitement for him, and I think he's going to win the district, and I think we're going to win it as well.
Scott Taylor, I want to thank you for being with us. Great job in the debate last night. We had an excellent story on it in the Virginia Star, and we're going to have you on again next week and talk about the last several days of the campaign. And thank you for allowing us to do our award-winning election night show at the Westin Hotel in Virginia Beach at Town Center on Tuesday night with my panel there, Scott. I really appreciate it. Thank you for giving us that opportunity. Thank you. All right, Scott Taylor, ScottTaylorforCongress.com.